everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to bezel this beautiful stone. Now I actually had originally purchased this one to put on my website, but the moment I saw it was just like, it's gotta be mine. I was gonna do it with beads, but I decided no, I want to do it with wire. I love to patina the wire after. I love the way that that looks, so I've decided to bezel it with wire. I'm gonna do a wire weave around it and kind of go with the flow. I don't have anything planned or in place to actually do this stone, so it's just gonna be a hope it works out type of video. So let's hope it works out. So without further ado, let's get into it. Normally when I wrap a stone like this, I use square copper wire, but today I want to weave a bezel around this and then make my bail at the top. So I'm going to use round bare copper wire. So I'm going to take my measuring tape and I am going to measure around the stone just to see how big it is in diameter and what I'm going to need for my bezel. So it's sitting at about 5 inches in diameter. So the stone is 5 inches in diameter. I do want a little bit of wire for the bail, so we could go 10 even to 12 inches. I think I'm going to do the 12 inches just in case I decide to do a little more with the bail. So here's my 16 gauge. This is quite a big stone. The only thing is a 16 gauge is very, very tough. Yeah, usually I get my wire from Parawire or Rio Grande. I don't think this was from Rio Grande because the spools I have from them are huge. So, okay, we're gonna do the 16 gauge and I'm going to cut I'm gonna cut 4 pieces and that should pretty much cover this part of my stone. So we're going to cut that. Now that I have my wire cut, I am going to straighten it out a bit. I'm going to use my nylon gel pliers to do this. And yeah, you don't have to like straighten it out too much, but when you do a weave, like I'm going to do a weave, you want it to be as straight as possible, like as smooth as possible. So to weave this piece today, I'm going to use my 28 gauge bare copper wire. This also is from Parawire. Yeah, like I said before, you either get it from parawire.com or Rio Grande. I like purchasing it from there because, you know, I can get a big spool of this stuff because I use this a lot. I think I've already gone through 2 spools from Rio Grande of the 28 gauge. I do a lot of weaving, so yeah, I use a lot of this stuff. Okay, so for 5 inches, now when I usually do bracelets, they're about 7 inches in length and I weave right up to the 7 inches. So this is just a couple of inches smaller, but I usually use 4 to 5 wingspans. I use these little spools to hold my wire. It just keeps it neat and tidy and not bending. You can get these on Amazon. I have like a set of 7 or 8. They last a long time. I love them for the bigger jobs, like when I have to do a bigger job like this and weave. I don't want to be cutting my weaving wire anywhere in this project until I get to the end of my project. Now here I'm going to measure, because I want to have this in the middle. I want to have the weaving area in the middle. So I'm just going to eye it. So I know this is 12-inch pieces. So I'm just going to make one side even. So 12-inch pieces. I'm going to make sure that it's pretty even. So it's 6 inches. So 2.5 brings me right about here. So I'm going to tape this right at that mark because that's where I want to start. I'm going to tape it right about there. And then before I tape it, I just spread the wires out just a little bit because you want some room for your weaving wire. You do not want to have your weaving wire fighting to get in between these wires. You will break it, and that is not fun. Right about like that, looks not too bad. And then I'm going to tape it. Okay. Now I'm ready to start my project. And what I do is I pull these kind of apart at the top there, just so when you're weaving, because this is a lot of wire to put your weaving wire like over. So kind of like that. And then as you weave, you want to pull those together. So basically I'm going to do just a couple of weaves right now just to get this so that it's stable, because these wires are moving in and out a little bit. So I leave about, I'm going to leave about probably a 10-inch tail here. I'm going to leave a 10-inch tail and I'm going to start it right about there with the 10-inch tail, as you can see. And this is just to secure the other end when I'm ready to, you know, do my bail. All right, now I'm just trying to figure out which weave I want to do, because I want to leave some spaces in here for the embellishing wire that I'm going to use to embellish the stone plus secure the stone. So the weaving has to be a little bit different so you have some space, you know, some space here to pick up that wire with, say, another 28 gauge or maybe a half round wire, whatever it might be. With your finger held tight to that wire, I'm just going to go around the first wire, pull it to the tape, and then go around the top of that same wire, and then repeat that through the other 3 wires. So the second wire, go to the top of the second wire, press it down, third wire, and over the third wire, press it down, and then your fourth wire, and press that down. And I like to take my nylon jaw pliers every once in a while and just press the weaving down like that. Okay, so I decided to just do one row, I guess that's one row of the weave that I want to do, because basically I want to leave some space. I don't want my weave to be really, really tight with this bezel. I want to be able to use and go between some of these wires, like I said before, for the embellishment. And yeah, so what I have planned. So this one here is very, very easy. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So I will go back again to the beginning, because you'll be like, what the heck is going on here? This is the bottom of my work. This is the top of my work, bottom of my work. So at the bottom of my work, I'm going to use these 2 first wires. And I'm going to go around and make one loop around both those wires. Then I'm going to do a second one. Same 2 wires and then 1 more. So you have 3 wires around the first 2 wires, the bottom 2. Now we're going to skip to the middle 2 wires. So I'm going to bring this wire through the between the first 2 wires there. So you're sitting here like that. And I'm going to go and I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to wrap it around the 2 middle wires 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay, just like so. And then I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to go between the middle of these 2 wires here to start my last loop. And so the first 2 wires, so this wire and this wire, I'm going to do 3 loops around that. So 1, 2, 3. And a good idea and a good habit to get into is once you do a couple of rows, I like to take my nylon jaw pliers and just press everything together. The tighter it is, the better it is. You don't want things getting loose later on in your project. So that is what you're doing there, just like that. So I'll do one more little V for you and then I'll let you go on your own. So I'm going to pull out a little bit, give myself some slack. All right, so now I'm going to work my way back up this side, so towards me. What I'm going to do now is come up between these 2 wires here. So the first one and the second one, like so. And then take my wire and go up between these 2 wires. So the first one and the second one, to make my loop coming back towards me. So do that twice more. There we go, like so. And then just come up to the first 2, take your wire and wrap around these 2 wires, these 2 ones here, and do that 3 times. There you go. And what this does is it starts, I'm starting my pattern for the bezel, as well as leaving myself some room here or here if I decide to, add other wire. All right. So I will meet you back here when I have 5 inches of this design done. Okay, so I have weaved to about 4.5 inches. I'm just going to check with my stone and make sure that is correct. I'm just going to take my nylon jaw pliers, the rounded ones, to start forming this into a circle. Just like that. Just press it. And because this is very thick wire. It's just a little bit easier for me to do it this way instead of trying to bend it with my fingers. This at least gets it started in the right direction. Oops. I use these pliers quite often for this type of job. Okay. I'm just going to start to press these in. As you can see, I've got a little ways to go. I could leave it at that and just bend them up. Could do that, and maybe I will actually. A little bit of space there always looks kind of pretty, and then I'm going to be embellishing anyway. Okay, as you can see, I am trying to get this stone in there. Just having a little issue right here, but like I said, this wire is very tough, so I'm just gonna try to bend it a little bit so it stays more straight. Don't want it to curve quite so much down there. There we go, that's a little bit better. That's better. So I'm going to leave it so that it sits kind of like that. Leave a little space in here to work with, which is fine. All right, so that looks pretty much even. I'm gonna bend those. I can find my pliers there. So I'm gonna bend these. So this one here I'll do first. I'm just gonna go above where my wires are meeting there and just try to make sure that's straight. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use these ones instead. And bend. All right. I'll bend this a little bit more. Maybe we're right down here instead. Right there. And this one as well. Straighten that out a little bit. Bend it down a little bit more. Like so. And let's check with the stone again. Okay, that's a little better. No movement in there. All right, now I need to put this bail together. I'm going to do that with half round wire. So I'm going to take 18 gauge half round wire and just bind these wires together. I'm not going to use it for the bail decoration or anything, I don't think. So I'm just going to cut off approximately 3 inches worth, not a lot. Because these are fairly thick wires, I am going to go up my pliers a little bit to bend it right about there. There. And as usual, pull to the side for me. Always work to my right. Just going to make sure everything is straight here. And I'm going to tape that together. So put these together. Hold them together nice. There we go. There. It's just to hold it a little bit so I can kind of get it to, you know, I can get it to bind a little bit easier without having to try to hold everything together. There. I don't normally work with 16 gauge on my pieces, unless it's a bracelet, then I will, but yeah, this is a fairly thick wire. It's hard to work with, hard to keep it in place, but you can do it. And this basically is just to hold this in place so I can work. All right, I'm going to take this tape off here before I'm finished. Now that I've got the binding around there, I don't need that anymore. I'm just going to pull some of these down. Make sure they're the right ones. Yes. There, okay. So these ones to this side, these ones to this side. There we go. I'm going to take the end of this binding and I'm going to fold it in and under here because I don't need that one. So in and under like that. Press it in. There. Done. I'm going to take this one now and put it into the middle here and cut it off. So I don't need this one here either. anymore. Pull tight. I could actually do a curl here or something maybe, just to make it look nice. Maybe I'll do that. We'll see. You can always cut it off after if it doesn't look good. Basically, I just did a little curl in the front there. Did a little curl in the front there. And if I don't like it after, I can take it out. It's not a biggie. All right, now we're ready for the next step. The bail. I think I will cut these off. I don't think I'm gonna need them. They're pretty work hardened already. I'm gonna cut these ones off, tuck them in. Just gonna make a little hole in here so I can actually weave that in. So I have to leave my awl in here. So I'm just going to do a couple little turns here. I'm using my awl right now to hold the wires apart because they keep wanting to smoosh back together. If that makes any sense whatsoever. I usually do about 3. That should be plenty to hold that in place and get rid of this wire. If I can bend it to the right area, there we go. Now those wires should be good. I'm going to cut it off on the inside and just get rid of that. Don't need that anymore. There we go. And just pull there. Should be good. All right, now we're going to do the bail. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the bail as simple as possible, absolutely as simple as possible. And these are very heavy wires, so it's going to be kind of a pain. So I'm going to do a 4 wire bail with these ones in the middle. All right, so I'm going to push those together. I think I better straighten them a little bit. I don't want a huge bail, but I don't want a real tiny bail. I mean, this is going to be a big piece here, so I'll pull you back a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I'm going to straighten these up a little bit. I'm going to bend these ones. I'm going to bend these back ones out of the way, just so I can work with these 4. And I'm going to straighten them as best I can without damaging any of the other wires. Hold everything in place too. You don't want nothing to move. I can feel it moving a little bit. As you can see, it's still moving a bit. Okay. I'm going to push these together. Like so. Try to keep them as straight as possible. All right. Now, I think I'll make a slightly bigger bail. Like I said, this is a fairly big piece, so I'll use the big side of my bail making pliers. I'll pull these down a little. Not a biggie. These ones are going to pull down a little. So you're sitting kind of like that. I'm going to press this down as much as I possibly can, keeping everything as straight as possible. Holding this really tight. Like I said, these are very dense wires, very tough wires. And I'm going to pull these right through, like so. Okay. And then I'm going to bend them like that, and then continue there, just like so. push them together. I want that to be as close together as possible. Bend that so it's even with the other one. Push them together. And hold really tight. Okay, now pull that around like so. Pull this around like so. And there, the bail is held. I'm going to find my cutters. I'm going to cut my first piece and just push it in. So I'm going to go about there. I'm going to go about there. I might have to take a little bit more off, but we'll do that first. And I'm going to bend that underneath. I'm going to need to take a little bit more off, I think. With 16 gauge, make sure your finger is on the other side because these things will go flying. Okay. Should have maybe just brought it through there first. There we go. Okay, finally got that. Oh, I think I'll bring this one through there first and then cut it. I'm going to use my pliers to grab that. There we go. That's better. I'm telling you, this bail will not come apart. Just like so. And press that down to hold. There. All right, now that the frame is made, bail's made, we are going to work on embellishing this piece. I decided to go with, 26 gauge, sorry, get that out of your way. 26 gauge round copper wire. This is very thin, like 28. Not quite as thin as 28. It's a little bit stronger, but easy to use as a weaving wire. So what I've done is I took my awl and I poked a hole in every second space. So I did this one. Am I on the right side? Yeah. So I poked a hole here, left this space, poked a hole here, left this space, poked a hole here. So I poked holes all the way around my piece, just so I don't have to keep messing with this and trying to weave. So this is actually the handle off my utility knife that I have. So I've taken it apart and I'm going to use this piece to just make sure that all the loops are exactly the same size. All right. All right, so now I've weaved already through the inside of my frame and just attached it to the back side of the bail, just so that it's out of my way. I left myself about 2 to 3 inches of tail just to weave in and finish it off. Yeah, you want a little bit of a tail to, attach to. Okay, so I've already done my first incision. I guess that's what you call it, incision, into the front part. Yeah, because this is the back, this is the front. So I'm going to go around like so. So I'm going to go through there one more time. Yes, go through there one more time. Pull it through nice and tight. Just go gently because this wire, as you can see, will it will knot up. So you just got to go gently, go slow, pull it through. All right, I'm going to take my wire, I'm going to miss this one, and I'm going to go to the next one. And I'm going to go underneath and through the hole that I made. All right, now I'm going to pull it through. like so. And then when I get to this point, I'm just going to put my little thingy in there, like that. Whoop. And hold it. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull it up like that. Nice and tight. All right. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to go back around. I'm going to do one more loop where I made the hole. Just go through there again. Make sure you stay on the right side of that. There. And as per usual, just watch your wire. Make sure she doesn't. Just hold that other loop as you tighten it, and there you go. That's the first loop done. Okay? Now do this all the way around, missing every other space till you get to the end, and we will continue. Okay, we're back. So I've done my first round. Now we're going to go on to the second round. What I did was I took my wire, I made a hole here right next to the first loop I made, and I'm going to pull that through. I want to start back at the other side again. And of course my wire is getting all of my tools. Okay, so I'm pulling this like that because I think that looks kind of pretty with the stone in there. Okay, so like that. And I'm going to go through the first loop that I made. I'm going to tighten that up. Make sure that your wire does not get, because they are subject to get a little, you know, like so. I'm going to leave the stone in here just like that. So I'm going to tighten this one up a little bit more. Sometimes it can be difficult to start. I always find it difficult to start the second row. There we go. All right, there. Now I've got it pulled through tight. All right, now that I'm here, I'm going to go back through the last loop this way, bring it up from the bottom and out like so, taking care that it does not get. Don't pull the loop too tight. You don't want it to be, you know, made into a point, so don't pull it too tight. Jeez, if I could get my fingers to work. Okay, and then I'm going to go back through this loop. Keeping it under. What I'm doing is going up through the loop from the top and then down, taking care that the wire does not get tangled. Always, always take care that the wire does not get tangled, because it will. And then pull it through the front and then continue around like that. And I will meet you back here when I'm at this side. Here we are. I've done my second row around the stone. Now I put the stone in there. As you can see, after coming out of here, I took my wire, I went through this little loop here. This little loop, there's a little loop there, and just, you know, got it to the back there. As you can see. All right. So now the front is done. I think I'm going to leave the stone sitting like that. I don't know, it's so hard to say. It's so pretty. Like that looks really good too that way. I don't know. What do you think? This way? Maybe that way? You know what? I think we'll do it this way. There. What about that? That way this, you know, a little bit of design, the black looks kind of like a bird. is actually showing really well. I like that. Yeah, I think we'll leave it like that. It's funny how things change after a while. Okay, now we're gonna work on the back. So the next step is to weave, and I'm gonna weave back and forth like this, okay? Just to hold the stone in place. All right, so let's get started on this. So now I'm coming out here, the stone, between the stone and the frame, and I don't want to come out there. So I am going to take this wire and I'm gonna pull it up through this little space here. I'm going to take my awl, there we go, and I am going to pull that up through that space. As always, being careful, it does not tangle. All right, there. Now at this point, we could go diagonal, we could go across. I think I'm gonna go about there. So right about here, actually maybe up one. Try not to hurt the stone. The wire gets a little bit brittle at the end, so I'm gonna cut it off. I mean, this 21 gauge does work hardened too. Eventually. So I'm just pushing on the stone a little bit because I'm having a problem getting it in there. So I got to push on the stone a bit to get that wire to come through. Just grab your pliers and pull it through. Like so. Go underneath that. There we go. Like that. Push the stone against the front and use your awl and make a little hole there. All right, going in from the top, coming out the bottom, take the pliers, grab that. Depending on your stone too, you want to be very, very careful. You don't want to damage the stone. Okay, I'm going to go back through the same hole at the top there, like so. I'm going to pull it through like so. Okay. So there we have the back captured. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this in a little bit. So I weaved it through the frame in little places. That way it's totally in there. It's not coming out. And then I just did a couple of loops around this, cut it off, and then took the wire and pressed it underneath so that it's hidden. So there's no, I'm sorry, my camera turned off. I don't know, bit of an issue here. So yeah, so I just pressed it under there and you don't feel any of the wire. So this is all tied off, all nice. Now I've just got to finish with these 2 pieces and these 4 pieces. So what I decided to do with these 2 pieces right here, I'm gonna pull them up and lock in these 2 wires here. So I'm gonna cut these off, and because they're such heavy wire, I gotta do one at a time here with my little cutters. So I'm gonna cut off about that much, about maybe 1/4 of an inch. There's one. And there's the other one. I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to fold them up around these 2 wires here. Unfortunately, I've made quite a bit of little marks here working with this wire Don't worry, when I'm finished, I will show you how to fix all that so nothing catches. As you can see, this one is a little bit shorter now. I screwed up when I tried to do my swirl. Didn't work out. So I just trimmed it down. We'll redo the swirl, but we're gonna do a smaller one. Not a big issue, it's okay. That one like that. Bring this one over a little bit. And this one, I'm going to start it this way. Right, and I'm going to swirl that one the other way. Like so. Just gonna pull this one up and out of the way. There we go. Just trying to work these so that they can fit in there together nicely, play nice. There. Like that. I don't like this one sitting here for some reason. It's out of place. Let's see if I can move that over. There. That looks better. There. I think we're gonna go this way. So I'm just gonna start getting the bend ready. This one here as well. I'm gonna pull it over like that. This one over like that, and just start to bend it around. Like so. .16 gauge wire is very tough to maneuver, but at the same time, it holds its shape really well. So like that. Then I'm going to start this one around like that. This one like that. And this one like that. Cut that back a little bit. Not a whole lot. Maybe about there. Okay. Just gonna buff the end of the wire there. Like that. Take my round nose pliers and start making the loop. Just gonna hold this one and just there. Just push that down a little bit because you don't want that sticking out. Okay, so with a little bit of playing around, and that's kind of what you got to do. I'll bring you in here a little bit so you can see. So there it is there. I made a little swirl there, one there. I don't want it to be too fancy. I was going to show you, now if you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but here and here on the bail, there is a couple of spots where when I was, you know, working with my around those pliers, I did damage the wire a little bit. This is a file that I use to smooth out this type of work here. So this side here will be the roughest. And I'm just going to start smoothing that out. When I'm done, you won't even know that any filing was done on this piece. And that's one of the things I love about copper wire, is that you can fix it. Even if you make a damaging mark or whatever, you can fix it. There. So with this here, I'm going to pull these apart. I always do that. I think it looks so much nicer when the bail has a widened look to it. I think that looks really pretty. There we are. All right, all you jewelry making addicts, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was easy to follow along. And I would love to see you back here for my next one. Have a good one. Bye.